Greetings, everybody, and welcome. We are here to discuss the creation of my Godzilla suit, which I wore to A-Kon 28. Well, I say that, but since most of my process is actually much more well described in other videos, see the Rancor build on AdamSavage'sTested.com, I've decided to breeze over most of that and focus on two things: the problems I had to solve, and to inform people who wish to become Godzilla of things I didn't think about and wish I did. To start, you'll want to nail down the design of the suit and get a good idea of what you want to do. Get a grasp of how you want it to look, and think about what all bells and whistles you want to add in. Make sure to keep in mind that you'll have to wear it. One thing I didn't think about all the way through when designing it was that I made it with the thought that I would hunch forward while wearing it. Let me tell you now, this is a difficult posture to keep up for more than a few minutes. Also, a lot of bells and whistles of my suit had to be cut due to time and budget. So, if you're making this with a deadline in mind, don't be afraid to adapt and let go of certain things. Now, onto actual construction. First, I took a posable artist model and sculpted half of Godzilla's silhouette onto it. For this, you won't need any texture, but you'll want to show the muscular structure. I then took masking tape and covered this model. The tape was ripped apart into smaller pieces that built up to be a smooth layer that I then drew out shapes that would lay flat. Think papercraft or a world map. You're making a 3D object out of a bunch of 2D shapes. This will be the pattern that will be used for cutting the foam for the foam fabricated suit. You'll notice on mine that some are colored in and some aren't. This is meant to signify stiff structural parts and flexible joints. I ended up using the same type of foam for the whole suit due to budget, but this is still something to keep in mind, which parts move and which don't. I took this pattern, blew it up about 825%, your percentage may vary, and transferred the shapes onto the foam. At this point, it's taking your foam, cutting it out, and putting together a puzzle. I hope you took photo reference of your model beforehand. Also, two things of note: if you don't have a hot wire foam cutter, an electric kitchen knife works great. And for the glue, either barge or DAP rubber cement is fantastic. I know DAP is easier to get in some areas, and if you're in a pinch for more glue and can't wait for one to ship, you should be able to pick the other up at the nearest hardware store. It's also at this point that you'll want to do a lot of test fittings. And when I say a lot of test fittings, I mean basically as each piece is attached or altered, do a test fitting. And make them rigorous. Do not be afraid to damage the suit here. This is where you want points of failure to show themselves. Otherwise, you'll be on stage or on a con floor in a suit that is literally falling apart and leaving debris in its wake. Yes, Godzilla is supposed to leave debris in his wake, but not this kind. Not his own flesh. Also, another tip: have your feet on the inside of Godzilla's feet. I had mine in the middle of his feet, and the ankles rubbed together and deteriorated faster. Moving on to the head, I took a block of foam and cut it and carved it into a basic Godzilla shape, and then put it on a stand, covered with chicken wire and foam to fill out the neck. I then took clay and sculpted details onto it. As a note here, I probably sculpted with the mouth in too closed of a position. The other sculptors I have seen to have it a bit more open, and you'll see why I think I did mine too closed here in a bit. After I sculpted the head, my friend and I took the sheets of metal as well as fiberglass cloth and resin, and then made a mold of the head. Another note: the Bondo resin you can buy when buying fiberglass cloth at the hardware store is kind of garbage. It smells, it's thin and brittle, it leaves the fiberglass really sharp, and its working time just isn't the best. For another mold we made after this, we took the same fiberglass cloth and took Smooth-On's epoxamite, and everything about that mold turned out much better than the head mold. And if I remember right, it's cheaper, but prices change all the time, so don't quote me on that. Anyway, after the mold cured, it was time to bust it open, clean it out, close it back up, and pour in the foam. We used Smooth-On's Flex Foam at 3, and I like how it turned out for the most part, but mostly due to how it was sculpted and how thick we poured the foam. It was a bit stiffer and heavier than intended. But that's also an experience on our part at the time. But you may want to try out different stuff to get the result you want. After pouring the foam, we took our electric knife and carved out all the stuff we didn't want and attached the head to the body, which actually we had to do it twice. First, we just attached it with the rubber cement we've been using for the rest of the suit and added some strips of thin foam and textured that to hide the seam. And this held for a while. But because we suspended the suit from the head while painting and texturing, eventually the weight of it all was too much. And one day we came in to find the body falling out from under the head. And in either a ridiculously dumb or brilliant move, I remember the Gurren Lagann cosplay. I fashioned out of foam and duct tape and how I secured the foam pieces with florist wire. So we took some aluminum rod that my friend had a large amount of in her garage and basically fashioned giant staples to staple the head to the body. And after painting and texturing, they were unnoticeable, so I would say brilliant. Speaking of painting and texturing, let's talk about that. After we got the whole thing put together, we used latex caulk and cut the spout lower than normal so the globs would be nice and thick. We then took a bit of scrap foam and dabbed on the glob so that it was rough and jagged, looking like a keloid scar. This was used on the majority of the body. And for the smoother parts, which is the belly and neck, we took the latex caulk, added water to thin it down, and then painted it on thick. And then took the back of the brush handle and basically drew a grid. Simple, yet effective. Some parts of the body, such as the feet, we layered some foam to get the physical overlapping scales and scutes. But it was mostly just the caulk. And for the back flap that covered the suit opening and where we mounted the dorsal fins, which was just a fabric-covered sheet of EVA foam, we took spray adhesive, specifically Super 74, or it might have been High 90. I think it was High 90. Either way, 3M makes it. Super 74, Super 77, and High 90 are all very handy. We use those spray glues a lot. Anyway, we sprayed the glue on the flap, and the texture of the glue on its own had this smooth yet natural texture to it, almost like a potato. Now for the painting. The first thing we did was spray the whole thing with Plastidip, which did two nice things. It filled in the pores of the foam and gave the suit a nice base coat of black. And after that dry, we took matte camo paint and added little bumps of color here and there. But due to time and the fact that it was already black, we didn't end up doing much. I liked the way it looked. For the face, there's a couple things to touch on. First, we added a metal jaw hinge to the mouth, but due to time, we didn't end up making the animatronics to move said jaw. But we covered it up with a row of teeth made out of epoxy putty and a tongue made out of scrap foam. The eyes were originally going to be more than the simple painted ping pong balls they ended up being. We were wanting to drill a hole for the pupil, paint the inside black, fill it with a clear resin, and then paint the outside. But all the resin we tried melted the balls, so we had to take another time and budget call. Still looked really good though. Last, we attached the dorsal fins, which for the smaller ones was just a matter of cutting a slit and hot gluing them in. But for the bigger ones, we took a piece of an aluminum rod and made supports to keep them up. Which, I should probably mention how we made the fins. They are a thin, semi-transparent acrylic plastic that we cut the shapes out of with a bandsaw. We planned on having LEDs to light them up, but because I got semi-transparent white plastic instead of clear plastic, which we would then sand the outside to make white, the color of the plastic dimmed the light too much, and the light could not shine all the way through. Then, to add the rough texture to the sides, we took pink insulation foam and sprayed it with High 90 and Brake Clean to dissolve the foam, which gave it this super rough texture. We glued it on, painted it to match the body, and boom, dorsal fins. The only other thing I could say we did with the suit is stuff the tail and hands with scrap foam to give it a bit more body since my hands didn't reach the hands of the suit. Make sure to measure that twice, kids. Speaking of, we cheated on the hands and just used costume gloves that came out for the 2014 Godzilla movie. Shameful, I know. Also, we supported the suit with a plastic external backpack frame with a metal plate coming off the top that went into the suit's head. I think that just about wrapped things up in terms of construction. I just want to say that while stressful at times, this was an incredibly fun project that I not only look upon fondly, I look forward to the next time I get to do it again. Which, with that being said, let's get into the things I haven't told you yet. The things to keep in mind and look out for. First of all is budget. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I never thought to tally up the cost of this until the last week of working on the suit. But all in all, this suit cost me 2,000 American dollars, which is a lot of money. This thing cost more than my car. I had to draw from my savings, borrow money from friends, and it's something that about 4 years later, I am still financially recovering from. I'm close, my debts are all paid, but I'm still rebuilding my savings. And on the subject of budget, also be sure to keep the amount of time you have in mind. I gave myself about a year to work on the suit, but due to poor planning on my part, I had to really rush to finish it within the last month before A-Kon. And because of the rush, not all the paint latex cured properly, I didn't do thorough enough test fittings, I did some, but not enough for a long enough time. And we had to cut out a lot of stuff we wanted the suit to do, like animatronics, lights, sound, etc. Even though we bought all the stuff to do all those things. Another thing to think about is comfort. For one, this suit will be hot and it will be heavy. No two ways about it. The only thing you can do is figure out how to manage these things. Having the suit properly hooked up into a harness so that the weight rests on your hips instead of your shoulders will help. You'll still feel the weight, but this will allow you to carry it easier for longer by getting some of the weight off your shoulders and back. As for cooling, we tried to have a fountain pump move ice water through a tube that was sewn onto a shirt I was wearing to help cool my torso. And this worked for some time, but we didn't have much ice or water in the tank that we stored in the base of the tail, so it wasn't long before this was rendered useless. We wanted to mount some fans into the suit, but again, ran out of time. I was lucky in that not all the pores in the foam were filled, so wind could blow through a little bit, and there was a hole from the inside of the suit up through the throat and mouth, so some heat could escape there, and people can fan the suit's face to cool my face and head. Also, the screen door mesh in the neck that I used to see also allowed me to breathe relatively cool air. I know fursuiters have vests that you can place cooling packs in, and I'm sure fans would have helped, but I'm always on the lookout for better solutions. But yes, you will get hot in this thing. I remember being backstage for the cosplay contest, and the coordinators are talking to all of us, and they were looking at all the girls in their cute and sexy outfits and say, "We know it's cold in here, but we'll look and see if we can get it a bit warmer in here." And I hear this, and I just scream from the inside of the suit, "Keep it cold!" And everyone just laughs. But this story brings me to my next bit of advice. Have multiple knowledgeable handlers. Keyword being knowledgeable. At A-Kon, while I did have a few friends follow me around making sure I didn't hurt anybody or run into a wall or anything else, there were 2 people at the entire convention that knew how to open the suit. Me and the friend who helped me build it, my friend Misha. Before the cosplay contest, we as a group walked the main floor and took pictures with other congoers and generally had a good time. This walk was about an hour and a half, and after we went back to the staff room because Misha and I are on the staff, and I got to take a break before the contest. But come time to head to the rehearsal for the contest, I suit up and Misha is called to run a panel. She's told by her staff head that it shouldn't be long as she'd be able to meet us before the contest proper starts. So I had my spouse Yuri join me backstage for the contest as my handler, just so that I have somebody there. Rehearsal goes well, still no Misha. Contest starts, still no Misha. Contest ends, still no Misha. I have been stuck inside this suit this entire time. I couldn't sit. I had to find a wall to lean on. And I have completely created my own environment inside the suit since the cooling system failed. My only solace was poor Yuri taking a paper fan and fanning air into the mouth of the suit. By the time the contest ended, I am exhausted. I can barely get back to the room before collapsing, and people still want photos, so I have to pause every few minutes. We get back to the room, and it's another few minutes before Misha shows I'm able to be removed from the suit. By this point, I have been stuck in this thing for 6 hours straight. So, in case the moral isn't clear, allow me to reiterate, have multiple people who know how to get you in and out of the suit. Also, you might want to design it so that maybe the head comes off at the very least. Give yourself that. Finally, we come to the final bit of advice. Storage. Find a proper way to store your suit, preferably propped upright. The best I could manage being broken in a tiny apartment was to lay the suit down behind my futon in couch mode. And let me tell you, this is suboptimal. Not only did the suit not properly get to air out after 6 hours of sweat had accumulated in there, but being stuck in that position in that condition caused it to rot and collapse within only a few months. And all I have is the head. I had to throw the rest away. It was beyond salvageable. On a lighter note, as soon as I get the funds, I plan on making another one, this time with more of a fabric and wicker construction instead of a foam one, which will hopefully help with durability and weight, but we'll see. I gotta get the money first. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and thank you to Jim Fazar of BecomingGodzilla.com for pushing me to finally get this video made. I hope you learned something from my mistakes and got some ideas for how to construct your suit. I wish all of you luck in your journeys to becoming Godzilla. Thanks again, and have fun.
Alan!